Okay, in this video, what I'm going to do is show you how to edit these. We've created a 2 foot 6.5 by 7-inch wide by 1 inch thick, we'll call it a plank of wood. And I want to make this piece of wood 6 inches wide instead of 7 inches wide. If you recall, we measured and we got 7 inches as the width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse the push-pull tool. And instead of pushing and pulling vertically, what we're going to do is we're going to take this side. Notice that it highlights whichever side you're currently actively highlighting or pointing to with the blue dots. We're going to take that side and we're going to push it inwards, and I'm going to type in 1 inch, just like we would when we were drawing lines. And what that will do is it'll take that surface and it will push it in by 1 inch. And if I measure now, from here to here, we have 6 inches. Let's make the board a 1/2 inch thinner, shorter. So we're going to use the push-pull tool, highlight the end. I'm going to push inwards by 1/2 inch. And if we check the distance now, we should end up with a 2 foot 6 board. Okay, so we use the push-pull to edit that way. All right, let's say I want to cut an angle on the end of this board. Let's say I want to cut a 30-degree angle on the end of this board. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tool that will help me to measure that angle. Right now we have the tape measure selected, but underneath the tape measure, if I click, you'll see there's a protractor tool. So I'm going to click that, and we get a protractor. Now that protractor is going to be relative to whatever face you have it on right now. So if I orbit to this face, see how it turns green? If I orbit to this face, it turns red. And you can see how it rotates. All right, and we want it on this face. I'm going to take this corner and I'm going to cut off a 30-degree angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this corner I just clicked, and now you can see I can turn it, but it's wanting us to represent what is the 0-degree angle, I suppose. So if I click here, that's going to be 0. And then if I move upwards, it's going to ask us how far in that direction or angle in that direction I want to go. I want to go 30 degrees, so I'm going to type in 30. You don't need any symbol for the degrees. And hit enter. And you can see it creates this nice little dotted line for us, a construction line for us. And our line tool will quite nicely snap right to that. And I want it to go all the way to there. Okay, so we've just created a 30-degree angle, and I'm going to push pull that all the way down and make that end disappear. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to push pull down until it reaches there. It'll say on edge typically, something like that. That's what we want, and then that will disappear. Okay, now that construction line will remain there so we can use it later if we need to, or if we're done with it. Something we haven't looked at yet is the eraser tool. If I click erase and then click on there, you can see a little eraser appears. Be careful of erasing objects. Like if I erase this little line here, you'll see that now my object is hollow and it is missing the top and the side face there. So you can undo that by Control Z, or you could redraw in this line and it will re-solidify that. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little notch out of the bottom here. So I'm going to draw a line from here across. Let's go 2 inches. And I'm going to go from that location will be a green dot. I'm going to go up 1 inch. And then I'm going to go across till it meets. So there's my notch, and I want it to go all the way through. So I'm going to use push-pull, push there, click, all the way down to the edge, and there we go, gone. If we want to put a hole in the middle of this shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line where I want the center of the hole to be. So I'm going to, let's say we want to go 1 foot inwards, so I'm going to go 1 foot. And that should be somewhere. Where's my green dot? There it is. Okay, and I want to go 3 inches down. Oops, not 3 feet. Okay, this is actually a good thing that this happened. I didn't intend for that, but if you forget the units, it's going to make some assumptions for you. And I put 3 feet, so that's way too big. I'm going to undo that by Control Z. And I'm going to click and I'm going to do 3 inches. All right, there we go. And now I want to draw a circle here. So underneath the rectangle tool is the circle tool. So if I click on circle, I now have a circle attached to my pencil. It needs 2 things to draw this circle. It needs to know where the center of the circle is and what the radius is. So I'm going to click the center. And let's make a 1-inch hole. So I want the diameter to be 1 inch. So my radius will be 1/2 of that, or a 1/2 inch. And there is my circle. And I'm going to erase my little construction line that I drew there. And now I'm going to put the hole through. And you notice that I can select either the hole or the board. And I'm going to select there. And I'm going to go all the way down. Now, if you go all the way through, you can see that it'll actually create what looks like a dowel or a peg coming out of the other side. I want it to stop, though, at the bottom. So I'm just going to highlight the bottom, or highlight this line. And it will say on edge. And when I do that, it goes all the way through. Okay. Now the rectangle tool, we could have used the rectangle tool to create the original part of this shape. I could have gone like this, selected the rectangle tool, clicked one corner, and then typed in the length of our rectangle. So we know the length of our rectangle is 2'6". And then before we hit enter, we press or type comma, and then the width. So we typed, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, we typed in 2'6", comma 6. The 2'6" is the length, or the x-axis, the red axis, and the 6 is the green axis, or our y-axis. Okay, when I hit enter, now I have that rectangle. By the way, I could have done all of my editing here. So for instance, I could have drawn in my 2-inch notch here. Okay, I don't know what's going on. It's not drawing it. Here we go. Try that again. 2 inches. There we go. There it is. Up by 1. Over. We came in 1 foot, I believe. And down 3 inches. So you'll notice that the way that I'm doing this is I'm kind of doing it almost like you would do a drawing on a piece of paper, like a CAD drawing, or like a technical drawing, where I'm laying it out all on a piece of paper first and getting rid of my extra construction lines. This is a perfectly valid way to do it as well. Okay, so there's my 2-dimensional version of this. I can even get rid of the middle part of the circle. So you can see how these two match up with each other. The difference being one is 2-dimensional and one is 3-dimensional. And I can now go through the push-pull process and make this 1 inch thick. And I end up with the same, two of the same shapes. Okay, actually, I think I might have changed the length of one of these when I was drawing. No, I guess, okay, so this is actually an interesting optical illusion. One of these looks, this top one looks much smaller, but in fact, they're both the same. Yeah, now they look the same. That was weird. Okay.